Hello there. Welcome in to a Tuesday edition of the show. I am so glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app to do your listening. And that app, of course, is free to download and free to use, and it's sponsored by Diversus Health. Mental health and well-being for all. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you, and I'd love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. The Nuggets stole that one last night. Can we all agree? Absolutely stole that basketball game. But it was an incredibly impressive performance by the Denver Nuggets. Because what happened, and the Nuggets got off to a good start. There was a little bit of that rest versus rust thing. The Nuggets look like the team that was, a little bit more in form than OKC. And the Nuggets got off to a good start, but that quickly dissipated. Oklahoma City found their footing, and they took control of the game. They took control of it, but they never finished off the Denver Nuggets. They kept landing body blow after body blow after body blow, whether it's the turnovers, whether it's the three-point shots that Oklahoma City knocked down. There were so many moments within that game last night where you saw it and you went, okay, that's it. There was probably 10 different moments throughout that game where I'm like, okay, that's it. That's a wrap. Oklahoma City hits a 3 and now Nuggets are down by 10. Or the Nuggets have a chance to answer and Oklahoma City steals the ball away from him. Or Alex, I think a lot of those moments had to do with Alex Caruso. Like when Alex Caruso kept bombing threes, there were many of those where I'm like, okay, it's just not in the cards tonight. But the Nuggets just kept on battling. And I told you that coming out of that Clippers series, this is a different Nuggets team. I don't want to be overly dramatic, but they have, call it flipping a switch, call it, having an epiphany, whatever it is. They're different. I watched this team and it's different because the Denver Nuggets obviously wanted to win that game. Borderline, they needed to win that game. We have to be honest about that. That the math wouldn't work out in the Nuggets' favor, in my opinion, if they were to lose game one. They really had to get it last night, but you didn't want to put that expectation because you're like, my goodness, they just came off of this thrilling, emotional, gut-wrenching 7-game series, and they have to step into the Hornets' nest there in Oklahoma City to face this buzzsaw of a basketball team. You didn't want to expect that they would win. But the reality of the situation is against a team like Oklahoma City, you had to take one of these first 2 games, and I don't know how. And always game 1 is more of a logical choice than game 2. But whether it's, every Caruso 3-pointer that went down, I'm like, that's it. That's it for the Denver Nuggets. But they kept pushing, perhaps because they realized how important it would be to take game 1. And look, the reason why they stayed in the game is Nikola Jokic. Okay, but I want to dedicate an entire segment to what Nikola Jokic did last night. But he was keeping them in the game. Let's be 100% honest about this. Jamal Murray disappeared for long stretches of time after the first quarter. Michael Porter was a non-entity. It was very much through Nikola Jokic that the Nuggets kept touch. And it was like they were just waiting for a moment where they could potentially strike this opening to where they kept trailing and Oklahoma City was keeping them at bay and keeping them at bay. And the Nuggets were just waiting for that right opportunity that would open up and they would strike and take control of that game. Little did we know it was on the very last play of the game.
This would be a huge miss. Second free throw, Holmgren. Missed it again. Rebound down to Christian Brown. You got to hurry. 7 seconds. Front court over to Westbrook. Left side, Gordon for the win. Yeah! 2.8 seconds left coming back the other way. Williams from half court. Baked it no good at the horn. And the Denver Nuggets shock the Oklahoma City Thunder in game number 1.
Altitude Sports Radio, you heard it right here on Extra Sports 1300. Aaron Gordon does it again. Now, not technically the last shot of the game. Wasn't at the buzzer. I don't care. It's basically the same thing. Aaron Gordon, for the second time in about a week, wins the game for the Denver Nuggets. And this is becoming a little bit of a habit for this guy. Here's David Adelman on the heroics of Aaron Gordon.
And Aaron's going to be a hero again, but I'm also looking at 14 rebounds. I'm looking at 22 points. I'm looking at ball handling responsibilities, leadership. He is a Denver Nugget, man. Like he is the soul of our team. So cool to see him have 2 moments that no one will ever forget.
And we've talked about Aaron Gordon in that vein before. The glue guy, the soul of the team, Mr. Nugget. Right? Always comes to work and does his job. Now, you don't want his job most of the time to be to take 3-pointers at the buzzer. But I came away with this realization, and it's just kind of an aside from all of this. The Nuggets aren't trading any of these guys. Like this idea that, they got to sacrifice one of these core guys to improve the team. And I'm not arguing that may be possible. There's no way they're trading Aaron Gordon. There's no way. After game 5, there's no way against the Clippers, there's no way they're trading Jamal Murray. Because if they have at least the promise that guy is going to show up, they're not going to get rid of him. Now, Michael Porter's a different story because, I think that there are major concerns about his health. He may be the piece that they would be okay with moving, but I don't know how feasible it is to move him now that he can't even remove his own jersey after games. That's how banged up he is. But they're not trading any of these guys. I don't know how they improve the team if they don't. But that's a story for another day. But Aaron Gordon coming to the rescue yet again for this team. And yes, there is a human element to all of this. What Aaron Gordon has been through. He brought his nephews to the press conference with him. Like, my God, if you didn't well up a little bit, get a little misty at that press conference if you saw it, I don't know what would move you. It's almost like these moments are better that they're happening to Aaron Gordon. You'd be thrilled if Russell Westbrook hit the shot to win the game, or Christian Brown or Jamal Murray or Nikola Jokic, but there's something unique and special about Aaron Gordon where it's like, I'm glad it was him. Be happy if it was anybody in the Nuggets jersey, but really happy that it was Aaron Gordon. And now the Nuggets have stolen game one. They have turned this series completely on its head. Winning game one does by no means guarantee that they're going to win this series. But again, I don't know that they win it without winning last night. And yes, there is an Oklahoma City side to all of this. The fouling. It was a little curious why on multiple occasions Oklahoma City, they fouled the Nuggets as if they were trailing. Right? Like as soon as they inbounded the ball, Oklahoma City immediately fouled them. With the most egregious example, of course, being when the Nuggets removed Nikola Jokic from the game, which is nuts. I know he's got 5 fouls, but still, it's Nikola Jokic. What if you get a steal? You have no timeouts left. What if you stole that inbounds pass and you're setting up your last play of regulation and Nikola Jokic is not on the floor? So I think Adelman might have been a tiny bit bailed out here by Mark Dagno and his team's game plan here. But they found multiple times quickly. They let no time go off the clock. And the most puzzling of those fouls was after SGA had the wide open dunk, can't bring in Jokic. Nuggets inbound an immediate foul. Here back comes Jokic. In the end, it turned out that it was Aaron Gordon who did in the Oklahoma City Thunder. But that was a very curious stretch by Oklahoma City. The Nuggets were waiting for that opening. They didn't know when it would happen, how it would happen, but they were clinging, they were hanging on, waiting for that potential moment. And Oklahoma City gave it to them. Here's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the reason why they immediately fouled like they did at the end of that basketball game.
It's hard now because we lost, and it's going to seem like we should have did the other thing, obviously, because what we did led to a loss. But, like, we've been in that situation before. We fouled, and we've won the game. And tonight it didn't go in our favor. Now, it's not always going to go the way you want it, but there's analytics and there's a way we want to end the game, and I think we did it as we planned. It just didn't go our way.
Analytics. Oklahoma City is a very analytically driven team. You know who else is an analytically driven team? The Boston Celtics. You know two teams that aren't as analytically driven as the Thunder and the Celtics? The Knicks and the Nuggets. What happened last night? The Boston Celtics were horrendous from three-point range, and they kept just jacking them up. Here comes another three-pointer and another and another and another, because that's the way they play. Analytics tells them to take a three-pointer basically every time down the floor. Analytics tells the Oklahoma City Thunder, if you're up by 3, you don't even give your opponent a chance to put up a three-point basket. You foul, and you will take that every single time. Now, I'm not here to tear down analytics and say they're the root of all evil here. But analytics, I keep going back to it, analytics work over time. They're not always the best thing in the moment for that particular game. This is why Oklahoma City and Boston Cleveland was very good as well, but why they kind of lapped the field, because they stuck to their plan, and over time it worked. But last night was a singular moment, a singular game. And in that situation, especially when Nikola Jokic is on the bench. You do not foul. You do not allow the Nuggets to bring in their best player. So last night in both the East and the West, that's one that goes against analytics. That's score one for guts, score one for heart, score one for championship DNA. And it all sounds very cheesy, and I completely understand why you're like, oh, Ryan, you're going to bring out the heart, soul, guts all over the place. Yeah, I am, because that's what last night was. Analytics were pummeling the Denver Nuggets all night, but they wouldn't go down. They wouldn't give in, and they hung around and they hung around. And then Oklahoma City, with their analytically driven model, the analytics told them to do something that in the moment they should not have done. And that was the only opening the Denver Nuggets needed. That was it. That was the moment. And this is not about Oklahoma City blowing it last night. They made some curious decisions, some wrong decisions, but they bludgeoned the Denver Nuggets over and over and over again. I guess metaphorically speaking, but also literally, with how physical they were playing. The credit that goes to the Denver Nuggets is, one, Aaron Gordon, like, holy cow, man, to hit that shot. But the Nuggets are only in that position because they didn't let go of the rope. They didn't say, oh, well, we came off of game 7. We gave it a great fight. Alex Caruso's raining threes upon us. It's just not our night. No. They stuck around. And they were able to steal game 1. What a moment last night. And I had this. I almost woke up my sons reacting to the Aaron Gordon shot. I have coworkers telling me that they almost woke up their kids. Neighbors pounding on the wall. What an awesome moment last night for Aaron Gordon as the Denver Nuggets take game 1. Get your reaction. How does this change the calculus, as I like to say? 719-24-7-1313, Drive Time Sports here on Extra Sports 1300. This is a joyous occasion today as the Denver Nuggets steal game one from the Oklahoma City Thunder, giving Nuggets fans far and wide real hope that they can slay this dragon that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't blame anyone who might start to get a little bit carried away in the wake of last night. This from the 719. OKC just got broke, my friend. Not a lot of people were expecting the Denver Nuggets to win that game. And I do think, look, I know Oklahoma City is not new necessarily to the postseason. Like, they've dabbled in the playoffs, but it's a different feeling that they have right now coming into these playoffs because they were a juggernaut throughout the regular season, absolute juggernaut. And then they just ran right through Memphis with no problem. Now we have to see how Oklahoma City responds to getting punched in the mouth. That's what we need to see tomorrow night. How is Oklahoma City going to respond? Nuggets did their job. They were resilient, they were gutsy, they were tough, and they showed their championship pedigree that they have, that Oklahoma City, to be fair, does not have. So I think game 2 tomorrow night is going to be fascinating. Now, my guess is Oklahoma City responds. And they might respond in a big way in terms of the final score. Like, I think that's entirely possible. That doesn't change the fact that the series would be 1-1 going to Denver. I mean, yeah, you want to get greedy, and I heard the TNT guys last night talking about it. You know, you want to get greedy and take game 2. I'm sure the Nuggets have every intention of getting greedy and taking game 2. This feeling they have right now, blowing out LA in game 7, turning right around in 48 hours. This never happens, by the way. Like, teams in the Nuggets situation don't win a game like last night. Coming off of a game 7 with 1 day between game 7 and game 1, teams don't win. And I think the Nuggets will want to chase that feeling into tomorrow night. And I think they'll try their level best to take a 2-0 lead. But I still think that Oklahoma City is every bit the team that they showed during the season. And I think they will respond. But the headline here is game on. The Nuggets started on the front foot. Now OKC has to chase them. They have to, now Oklahoma City must win game 2. They cannot fall behind 2-0. That goes without saying. And then even if they win tomorrow night, now they got to travel to Denver. And that place is going to be absolutely nuts. And they're going to have to win that in order to reclaim what they lost. Which people will say it's home court. I think control of this series, that's more what I'm talking about. The Nuggets are now in control of the series. They lose tomorrow night. They're not down, right? And then they win game 3. They're in control, right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking so much about home court advantage. So it will be fascinating to see how Oklahoma City responds tomorrow night. And I think that they will respond with a very good performance. And here's the thing, as if last night wasn't a good performance. Yeah, some of the decision-making, some of the analytics that OKC relied on in those situations came back to bite them a little bit. But I don't know how you could look at last night and not say Oklahoma City played well. I mean, what, Shea put up 30 last night? I thought Hartenstein was impactful. And I'm sure Oklahoma City, they're talking about today how this person, I think Jalen Williams was not great. I think Chet had a horrible night. So sure, Oklahoma City will say we could play a little bit better, but I don't know. Jamal Murray was not really that impactful for 3 of the 4 quarters last night. Michael Porter was non-existent. Yeah, in order for the Nuggets to win this series, they're going to have to get those guys to contribute. But I don't know how you look at, there's some individual for Oklahoma City where you say, all right, they're probably going to be better the next game. I don't know that Chet Holmgren's going to be better. Nikola Jokic backs down Chet Holmgren like I back down my 12-year-old in the driveway. Like, he is not a physical match for Nikola Jokic. Hartenstein did much better against Nikola Jokic than Holmgren did. I don't know. I think Holmgren's a great player, and I think he'll have better moments, but my point is, it's not like Oklahoma City played terribly. They were leading the whole game. They just couldn't deliver that final blow, the knockout punch, to put the Nuggets down to the canvas. They just couldn't. But they play great. Alex Caruso was phenomenal last night for Oklahoma City. Don't tell me OKC played poorly. I'm not saying that you're saying it, but I'm sure there are people out there. They just couldn't put away the Denver Nuggets. You have to be fair to Denver. They're not Memphis. And I think there was a little bit of that last night too, where Oklahoma City got in a rhythm of just beating down a team with no championship medal, without Ja Morant at the end of that series, and was woefully outgunned. And maybe they thought it was going to be a little bit easier to deliver that knockout punch. It was incredibly difficult, and they never did. Brett says if Oklahoma City is playing analytics, then maybe they should get Brad Pitt as their general manager. That's the only time I've ever seen it happen. Or was it Philip Seymour Hoffman? Philip Seymour Hoffman, because this is what I do, take your obvious joke and actually like dive into it. Philip Seymour Hoffman actually played Art Howe. He was the manager, and he was very anti-analytics, if you recall, from the feature film Moneyball. Look, it's hard to argue against analytics when the two most analytically driven teams in the NBA are Boston and Oklahoma City. Right? Analytics does work. But the part that people miss, and I just mentioned in the last segment, the part that people miss is that analytics work over time. That's why they're so popular in baseball, because that's all they have is time. They got all the time in the world. They got 162 games. But what happens when the playoffs roll around? Teams rely on analytics, comes back to bite them. Why? Smaller sample size. That's the flaw in analytics. Is that there are moments that come up in the example that keeps running through my head every time I say analytics, and maybe it does for you. Rays pulling Blake Snell in the 2020 World Series. Remember that? That was one of our last big analytic conversations. No feel for the game from Kevin Cash. He trusted the spreadsheet, took out Blake Snell, and everything went downhill from there for the Tampa Bay Rays. Analytics bit the Oklahoma City Thunder last night. Analytics have done a lot of good for them. And analytics still may do a lot of good for Oklahoma City moving forward. But sometimes it's not foolproof, because if it was foolproof, then everybody in the NBA would use them at the same amount. That's just not the way it works. And when you have these particular moments where deviating from analytics would be a wise decision, like, hey, wait a minute, Nikola Jokic, who has destroyed us all game long, he can't come back in unless we foul somebody. Let's not foul them, and let's take our chances with the rest of the Denver Nuggets beating us or forcing overtime. But as you heard Shea earlier, that's not the way they do it. They do it this way all the time, no matter what. And it's gotten them to what, as David Adelman joked about the other day, 72 wins now. It's worked. But there was a moment last night where I think it would have been prudent to put analytics to the side. And I know analytics people say you never do that. I think you have to. You could have kept Nikola Jokic on the sideline. And you let him back in, and also you kept stopping the clock too quickly. Let some time wear down. It was analytics. It wasn't feel for the game. 719-24-7. 1313. Coming up next, Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic met with the media earlier this afternoon. So by me saying that, you already know that Chris McFarland was not let go today. Somebody was. Somebody lost their job in the wake of the Avs loss in Game 7. Might not be who you think. Tell you next on Extra Sports 1300. Today, or just a little over a couple hours ago, Avalanche general manager Chris McFarland, as well as team president Joe Sakic, met with the media. This is a normal exercise. So when it was confirmed by the team that the two of them would be meeting with the media, there was nothing to necessarily read into other than if Chris McFarland is leading this press conference, that he's probably not going to get fired. So there was that. That was the only thing you could read into it. You didn't know what else was coming. And then Chris McFarland opened things up, and tell me, you probably already know by now, but if you don't, like, listen carefully and think about where you think he's going with his opening statement and where he actually went.
Today we made a difficult decision. We made
right there. Stop. Today we made a difficult decision. What would you expect the next words out of his mouth to be? We have made a change at head coach. I know, because that's what I thought he was saying. But he continued.
Today we made a difficult decision. We made we're gonna move on. A good hockey man and a good person and a.
Still think they're talking about Jared Bednar.
Today we made a difficult decision. We made we're gonna move on. A good hockey man and a good person and a good coach in Ray Bennett. So just wanted to start off with that. And
wait, what? Ray Bennett. I thought, listening to Chris McFarland, that he was going to say that they fired Jared Bednar. But it's Ray Bennett who loses his job. It's Ray Bennett who answers for the choking away of not only Game 7, but that series against the Dallas Stars. Why, you may ask? If you are unfamiliar, Ray Bennett, one of his primary jobs is the power play. So basically, what the Avalanche did here was what you see NFL teams do so often. They fire their OC. That was the big announcement today. But if we're continuing this through the lens of the NFL, because we don't usually like get a formal announcement in this way, I think with an assistant, it's usually just kind of a maybe an oh, by the way. Like, not, I don't want to, Ray Bennett has been a key piece of Jared Bednar's coaching staff. I don't want to minimize who he has been for the Colorado Avalanche, but it's almost like you would normally hear it like we've made some staff changes later on when they are inevitably asked if Jared Bednar has been retained. So that was the first words out of Chris McFarland's mouth. And I thought till the very end it was Jared Bednar. But again, getting back to the NFL thing, you know how this works. Even if you're not into hockey, that's why I'm putting it through the NFL lens, because you have seen this before. Teams looking for a scapegoat will often let go of an offensive or defensive coordinator. Sometimes it's the special teams coordinator, which now thinking about it, maybe Ray Bennett would be a special teams coordinator in all of this, but a coordinator. This part of our game didn't work. And we are making a change there. We're not making the big change. We're going to make this change, this very specific change. And in some ways you get it, right? Because there's no doubt that a huge reason why the Colorado Avalanche lost this series is because of how poor their power play was and how many opportunities late in game 2, late in game 3, multiple times in Game 7 where they had power plays where they could have either won the game or, in the case of Game 7, put it away, and they failed to do so. So this actually makes some sense, right? It wasn't goaltending. As Joe Sakic talked about, wasn't 5-on-5 play. If you had to look at one thing, it would be the power play. Now, you've seen enough of this kind of coaching changing in your time if you are an NFL fan. What inevitably happens next? And it's happening with the Colorado Avalanche right now. Jared Bednar is going into next season on the hottest seat in the National Hockey League. They found their fall guy in Ray Bennett. But once you do that, then the pressure immediately falls on the shoulders of the head coach because he's going to be the next move. So going into next year, no one's seat in the NHL is hotter than Jared Bednar's. And it doesn't have to be 1 year from today. Let's see where we're at. He's going to be on that hot seat from Game 1 through Game 82 into the playoffs. I'm not predicting that the Colorado Avalanche are going to stumble next year. I think they will be actually quite good. But if they happen to struggle, let's just say that a similar start to what they had this year, right? Not a lot of great results. By Thanksgiving, by Christmas, by New Year's Day, Jared Bednar could be fired. Now, again, I don't think that's what's going to transpire. I think that the Colorado Avalanche are going to be contending for a Central Division crown again. But Jared Bednar is on the hot seat. The firing of Ray Bennett is not just hey, we need some different ideas on the power play, which I can appreciate and I can understand, but it has multiple meanings behind it. It's that, but it's also, okay, we did the thing. Now, Jared Bednar, the rest is on you. But no huge change coming for the Colorado Avalanche. Chris McFarland still employed, and Jared Bednar still employed. And when I listened to Joe Sakic speak today, I found out because you may be asking, well, okay, they fired Ray Bennett, and you kind of understand that, but why not Jared Bednar? Because it's not just this series with Jared Bednar, is it? It's last year. It's the year before they won the Cup. It's 0-4 in Game 7s. This isn't the first time that Jared Bednar-led Avalanche team has failed to meet expectation. So you may be wondering, well, why not make the change with Jared Bednar? Make the big change. I think one of Joe Sakic's answers right at the beginning tells you all you need to know.
We had a lot of turnover this year. I think that after the deadline, we really liked the team we had. We felt this was a deep team that was ready to compete and be there at the end. So it is disappointing that it ended like that.
A lot of turnover. And this is what I was talking about yesterday in terms of Josh Kroenke or Joe Sakic, however that power dynamic works. How do you look at the Mikko Rantanen trade? Is it kind of a reset of sorts? A pivot? And you want to kind of see more than just a half of a season in one playoff series? Or was that the last-ditch attempt by the current Avalanche administration, if you will, to save this championship window? And clearly it's the former. Clearly Joe Sakic is saying there, I have more patience. As disappointed as he is about the Avalanche losing in round one, he has more patience because of the number of changes. And he has that patience with Chris McFarland, and he has that patience with Jared Bednar. So that's the reason. Agree or disagree with it. To me, that's the reason why Jared Bednar and Chris McFarland, because I keep wanting to rope him into this. It's not just Jared Bednar. Chris McFarland was the one that made these moves. Now, about the fact that it was Mikko Rantanen that ultimately did in the Colorado Avalanche, Joe Sakic did not love that aspect to it, but he did not back off of his assertion that the Colorado Avalanche needed to make the move.
It's a tough decision, trading a guy like that. But you look at where we were in the last few years, we weren't good enough. We weren't deep enough. We won in 22 because we had our stars, but we were also deep. And you can't win the Stanley Cup without it. And status quo wasn't good enough. We wanted to have him signed, and I'm not going to go into details and say talk about negotiations, but I know his agents. They know where they were at before the trade was made.
Shots fired. Perhaps Joe Sakic trying to spin that story back in the direction of the Colorado Avalanche, because in the wake of the trade, a lot of it was Rantanen wanted to stay. Rantanen gave them a discounted, how much of a discounted price, or whether that was enough of a discount is up for debate, but it was a very pro Mikko Rantanen news cycle. He wanted to stay. He didn't want to go. He was willing to make some concessions, thought that things were going well. He was blindsided by the trade, all of this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying you have to believe every word of it. As in most cases, the truth is somewhere in the middle. I'm sure there are some things about this thing that are favorable to Mikko Rantanen, and there's probably some things that are favorable to the Colorado Avalanche and unfavorable to Mikko Rantanen. And I'll let you pick through what you think is spin and what you think is legitimate. But that sounds like Joe Sakic not only trying to back up the trade that they needed to, this is the direction that they must take. Which, in the wake of the Stars series, it's being questioned. Certainly. That's him doubling down on the need to get deeper. They had to trade one of their key players in order to get the depth that they needed. And then at the end there, it was maybe it's not woe is Mikko as much as some people have tried to make it out to be. But the facts are the facts. Mikko Rantanen outscored Drury, Natchez, and Nelson, who were all brought in either as a direct result in the trade itself or brought in later because of the cap savings. And Mikko Rantanen outscored all three of them combined. They threw their lot in with Valeri Nichushkin rather than Mikko Rantanen, saying that Nichushkin was more vital to their success, and Mikko Rantanen put up 3 times the points that Valeri Nichushkin did in that series. So they may have great conviction that this was the direction that they needed to go. But now, really, they got to prove it. They really got to prove it next year. Because there are a lot of doubts surrounding this organization on whether they made a huge mistake in trading Mikko Rantanen. And now whether they have a chance to improve, is it with the power play? Is it just ideas? Is it just coaching? Or is it personnel? Here's Chris McFarland on how difficult it's going to be to upgrade the Avalanche roster.
Our goal is always to improve the team. Next year, I think it's 95.5, so it's still relatively, well, very tight for us, to be quite honest. And with those holes, we're going to have to see how we can make the math work. But our goal is always to get better, and we've got a lot of players that are coming back here that are obviously good hockey players. So that's for the next few months here to dial that in for sure.
And I do think, I'll say this before I take a break here, I do want to see this Avalanche team next year. I want to see Brock Nelson for a full season. I want to see Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood for full seasons. Blackwood more than Wedgwood, but ideally both. I'd like to see Natchez longer. I'd like to see Drury with that fourth line. I'd like to see Charlie. I want to see this team, as disappointing as their performance was against Dallas, I do want to see it next year for a full season, to truly be able to gauge whether this is the right direction, whether ultimately they made the right decision. Right now, it doesn't look like that. But if they're able to run it back with a few exceptions, maybe a Ross Colton or a Miles Wood being gone, and we'll dive into all of that as we move forward over the coming days and weeks. But I do want to see the players that were acquired by Chris McFarland this season. I do want to see again next year. I want to see how it comes together, if it can be any better. I don't think that there are any glaring weaknesses of this Avalanche team. The power play did not perform well, but as from a personnel standpoint, I don't know how many things they're missing, but what came to be is that they need another star. And I think that's part of the bet they're making with Marty Natchez, is that eventually he can be on the same level as Mikko Rantanen. Was a half a season enough for him to realize that potential? In the Avalanche's mind, no. 719-24-7. 1313. Take your reaction to the Avs not firing Jared Bednar and where they go from here. Coming up next, we marvel at what we saw from Nikola Jokic last night. Welcome in, Drive Time Sports on this Tuesday. Ryan Kaufman with you. Appreciate you tuning in. You can always watch the show live, by the way, on our social media platforms at XTRA Sports 1300. Tonight, Switchbacks FC hosting New York Red Bulls in the U.S. Open Cup. Doc Harmon will be my guest. No one knows New York Red Bulls better than he does. And he'll be on the call for the game tonight on the New York side of things. I, along with Roland Vargas, will be on this side of the equation starting at 7 o'clock here on Extra Sports 1300. So Doc will join me, give us a little background on how things are going for the reigning Eastern Conference champion New York Red Bulls. And yes, as I have been hit up many a time today, the match still on. If anything does change, I will let you know, but normally soccer does play through the elements. And given that this is the Open Cup and not league play, rescheduling becomes much harder. And their opponent tonight is coming all the way from Harrison, New Jersey. So there are a lot of reasons to get this game underway. And I'm looking out the window. Precipitation here at I-25 in Woodman has stopped. But match still on. And I have more tickets to give away, by the way, if you would like to go tonight. That's coming up in just a little bit. Nuggets stealing game 121 to 119, but as much as Aaron Gordon played the role of hero in the end, that result was not possible without Nikola Jokic. And I said that Nikola Jokic didn't play necessarily poorly in the Clippers series, averaged a triple-double. But I said he's got to perform at the level we expect him to, and he didn't. It's not just that he gets a triple-double, it's also how big those double-digit numbers are. And last night was a perfect example of this because for long stretches of that game, it was him fighting against the entire Thunder squad. And he comes away with 42 points, 22 rebounds, and 6 assists. Actually, not the ideal Nikola Jokic stat line, right? Those assist numbers are down. But yet, Nikola Jokic was still able to keep the Nuggets in there. And Aaron Gordon ended up playing the role of hero with the three-pointer with just about a second to go. But certainly last night backed up my thoughts going in. Nikola Jokic is going to have a much easier time than he did last round. And retroactively, if you didn't give him enough credit as it is, we need to retroactively go back and give Ivica Zubac a lot more credit for the way he defended Nikola Jokic, because last night the Oklahoma City Thunder were powerless to stop him. Now, the numbers will tell you. I'll tell you one adjustment. Mark Dagno, if you're listening, I'll give you this freebie. Stop putting Chet Holmgren on him. Stop putting Chet Holmgren on him. Chet Holmgren's a terrific shot blocker. I grant you that. He can't block Jokic's shot if he's put into the third row. Physically, he cannot handle Nikola Jokic backing him down. And the numbers back this up, because actually when Hartenstein was the primary defender, and we know they're going to double him all series long, whether it's with Holmgren and Hartenstein or one of the bigs and a smaller player, they're going to do that all series long. But when Hartenstein was his primary defender, Nikola Jokic was just one of 6. So there's an easy adjustment for Oklahoma City. The amount of times you double them or whatever, that's up to them. But the idea that you're going to have Chet Holmgren on Jokic, I didn't understand that going in. It just makes so much more sense to have the bigger, stronger player battling with Nikola Jokic and then have Chet off the ball, weak side, to come over and block the shot. Right? Just like with Minnesota, it made more sense for Gobert to play off of Jokic and Cat to guard him, because from a physical standpoint, Cat can match up a little bit better. And then you have Rudy Gobert roaming as like that free safety or weak side linebacker to come over and help. Oklahoma City should do the same thing. I don't understand why they do more of it last night. But the numbers say Hartenstein on Jokic is a better bet than Chet guarding Nikola Jokic. Still, though, I don't know how much it's going to help. I don't know how much it's going to help. Look, if the Denver Nuggets are going to win this series, it will be because Nikola Jokic has more performances like the one we saw last night. Not exactly, but 35-point triple-double, a 30-point triple-double, like Nikola Jokic, like he was last night, could be the reason why the Denver Nuggets win this series. It was certainly the reason why they won last night. Credit to Gordon, credit to Westbrook, credit to other guys who helped out along the way, but that was Jokic. The Nuggets absorbing all these body blows from OKC, whether it's a turnover, whether it's an Alex Caruso 3, whether it's a Shea mid-range jumper, all of these body blows that were delivered where you went last night. Oh, I think that's it. Oh, that's a wrap. Nuggets aren't coming back now. Inevitably, it was Nikola Jokic coming right back at them and would refuse to let the Denver Nuggets lose that game. And once again, we saw Nikola Jokic in the team huddle. And I don't care what he tells TNT. I watch all of Nikola Jokic's games, as you do. We have never seen this guy as animated in a team huddle as he was last night. We've never seen Nikola Jokic take this level of accountability, this much taking charge like this. We've never seen this. And this series is the story of this series is very much going to be about Nikola Jokic taking the reins and saying, this is my team. I have a voice. I'm the best player. I'm going to do whatever I can to help this team win. But even with Nikola Jokic taking as much ownership of the situation and being vocal and dominating like he was last night, they're not beating OKC in a 7-game series if the other guys don't come along for the ride. Jamal Murray was terrific to start that game. And then I think he got put in a torture chamber. And he was not effective overall last night. I think he was under 50%, shooting 6 of 16, 21 points. I think he had like 12 or 14 after the first quarter. And Jamal Murray knows that. He went on TNT last night. He knows he needs to be better. He knows that. Nuggets can't win this series unless it's Jokic and Murray. But this series overall, man, I don't know how you felt after last night. Like, I tweeted this out and I meant it. I was using the word I wanted to use. It's not that it's emotionally draining. It's literally physically draining. Like, I was tired. I was physically tired after watching that game. It was just, I mean, it was a backyard brawl. It was unbelievably physical. And also, these games are going to go late into the evening because these two teams are just going to be hacking each other, I think, all season or all series long. These games are going to be long. They're going to be slow. They're going to be physical. Thankfully, we get a bit of a respite from it on Sunday because it's an afternoon game. But I mean, this is going to be, I don't like to throw around this word because there's real wars going on, but like from a sports sense, this is going to be a war. And the Nuggets won the first battle of that war. Going into game 2, I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because obviously we'll have game 2 as our primary topic of conversation tomorrow, but just some early thoughts. Got to hit threes. 10 of 32. That was one thing about Oklahoma City's defense. They will give up opportunities to hit threes. Nuggets got 32 of them, only hit 10. And thank goodness, because 9, they lose the game. And then the turnovers. Turnovers got to be better. 18. And just OKC, their defense, I mean, the Clippers were a very good defense. Oklahoma City looks like it's like night and day. Like Oklahoma City is swarming everywhere. And it's not just Jokic. It's like every single player that touches the ball, there's 3 black jerseys around him. Like they swarm and they get in there and they knock the ball away. Nuggets got to find ways to keep better care of the basketball moving forward in this series because they are quite fortunate that making only 10 of 32 3-pointers and turning the ball over 18 times, and they still were able to win that game. But getting back to my original thesis of the segment, Nikola Jokic. 42, 22, and 6. Oklahoma City's got a lot of work to do if they're going to slow this guy down at all. And as an aside, not that the MVP is determined in this series, but the head-to-head of SGA versus Jokic, round 1 goes to Jokic. 719-24-7, 13-13. Take your thoughts on the Nuggets stealing game 1 from Oklahoma City. Game 2 tomorrow night here on Extra Sports 1300. Tonight on the station, it will be Switchbacks FC against New York Red Bulls. A little bit of history tonight at Weiner Field. We'll talk about it next here on Extra Sports 1300. Welcome back. Drive Time Sports. Coming up tonight, history will be made at Widener Field as the Colorado Springs Switchbacks will host for the first time an MLS club in New York Red Bulls for the U.S. Open Cup round of 32. And joining me now to give you a little primer from the New York perspective on things, kind enough to join me, Matt Harmon, who is the voice on the radio for New York Red Bulls. Matt, really appreciate the time today. How are you enjoying Colorado Springs? Other than the weather, how are you enjoying Colorado Springs?
Yeah, other than the weather, Ryan, I would say everything's been great, but the weather has definitely been a factor the last 36 hours since we've been here. But as you said, really looking forward to the game. I think this is the idea of a cup competition. You see it in other countries, higher division teams having to go on the road and play at lower division teams. I think it sets up for a really fun game tonight, and hopefully the weather cooperates even just a little bit more than it is right now, and we have ourselves a good match.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. You mentioned 36 hours. Did the team get out here any earlier because of altitude?
No. So the trip's been a little bit unique for us. We were in Fort Lauderdale Friday and Saturday with a game Saturday night against Inter Miami. Team trained in Florida on Sunday and then took a flight Sunday to get here because it didn't make much sense logistic wise to go back to New Jersey to then come to Colorado. So an extra day in Florida and I guess in some ways maybe an extra night here in Colorado Springs. But, other than that, everything's been somewhat normal.
Yeah, has there been some talk around the club about how, Colorado Rapids, obviously, a trip to Colorado is not totally unfamiliar to this team, but is it much of a conversation among the club?
I'd like to think, anytime that there's a cup competition where it's single elimination, there's a little bit more of an element of urgency to it. I get that sense being around the team. I would say in talking with our head coach this morning, he would probably be among those who would say altitude is not an excuse, weather is not an excuse, travel is not an excuse. But yeah, listen, is it so much different than going to play the Rapids outside of Denver? Probably not a ton. Smaller stadium and different atmosphere, but I think the idea of the game is still super important, and it's a Red Bull franchise that, as long as I've been with the team, which goes back to 2015, win, loss, or draw, they take these tournament type games pretty serious.
Matt Harmon, my guest, radio voice of New York Red Bulls, who will be playing the Switchbacks tonight at Widener Field in the U.S. Open Cup, and obviously that's music to the ears, I think, of a lot of soccer fans around here, because there are some clubs that really don't take this competition as seriously as fans would like them to. And it sounds like certainly New York has the mindset of wanting to come in and win, but at the same time, we know that there's a bigger prize that your club is trying to get to this year, little unfinished business from the year prior. So how much of tonight, in terms of a lineup, do you expect maybe some guys that haven't gotten a lot of run during MLS play getting a chance here tonight to kind of showcase their abilities?
Yeah, I would say, Ryan, to that point, I think anytime you see a MLS team enter in this particular round, like the round of 32, I always think you're going to see some sort of roster rotation. And I wouldn't even necessarily say that it's roster rotation based on, you're playing a team from USL. I think there's roster rotation just based on the fact that if you look at the month of May for our team, it's extremely crowded with schedule congestion. We could play up to 9 games, which would mean winning tonight and then getting another game in the Open Cup in 2 weeks. So minimum 8, potential 9. There's got to be opportunities for other guys to play. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you see some opportunities for some players who don't necessarily get a ton of minutes in a given day or a given game in MLS.
Matt Harmon, my guest, told you earlier about the current form of Switchbacks FC. Allow me to ask you how the early parts of the season are going for New York Red Bulls. Obviously, a tremendous season last year. Little slow getting out of the gate, or are they looking pretty good from where you're sitting?
I think the best word would be maybe inconsistent. If I could be honest, I think you look at their record and it's 4 wins, 4 losses, 3 draws. So there's a lot to kind of unpack in our first 11 games. At times, I think we've looked really good. I would point to a game earlier this season against Nashville, where Red Bull was in charge of the game, dictated pace of play, dictated tempo, had some really good chances. And then there's been other games. More recently, a loss at home to DC United, which wasn't great. Kind of beaten up a little bit over the weekend at Inter Miami. I think, Ryan, to be fair, I think it's a team that's still figuring a couple of things out. Every year is clearly a different run. But I would say there's probably a little bit of frustration based off of winning the East last year and making it all the way to MLS Cup. Like, why are we off to this slow start? I think there's a variety of reasons you could point to. And I would think that, again, having such a busy month of May, there's opportunities for players to impress the coaching staff. So I would think you'll see some new faces and some new names tonight. And my hope would be that in that regard, you also see players that are hungry to try and make an impact.
100%. Matt Harmon joining me here on Drive Time Sports. So for those unfamiliar with the club that you call matches for, what is the style of play that they like to try to impose? You said they've been a little inconsistent in terms of imposing themselves on these matches. When New York Red Bulls are performing at their highest level like they were last year, making all the way to MLS Cup, what does that look like? What do they try and do?
Normally, if you thought of a somewhat typical Red Bull team, it's in your face, it's high pressing, it's causing turnovers, it's playing a more chaotic style. Now, I would say things have emerged a little bit more this year, possession a little bit more important, where in the past it maybe wasn't. So I think part of maybe a slower start this year is also predicated on the idea that the system is evolving. But normally, if you think of Red Bull, the moniker that most people would say, and it obviously goes along with the theme of the club, would be energy drink soccer, which means that you're in your face and you're trying to really put the other team under a lot of pressure, cause turnovers, play on the other half, and go from there.
So regardless of the result, the entertainment value should be quite high. Colorado Springs wanting to do some of those same things, certainly tonight in this one. Should be a great one. It's a unique sporting event and a chance here in Colorado Springs to have something like this that we've never done. And it's not just any MLS club that's coming in. It's one of the elite clubs in that top level of the American soccer pyramid. So this, for us here in Colorado Springs, is amazing. And we're very much looking forward to it tonight. This was great conversation, Matt, very enlightening for Switchbacks fans who are getting ready to head down to the stadium here in the next couple of hours. I'll see you out there. Have a great call, and I really appreciate you taking some time to join me.
Ryan, thanks for having me on. It's number one, it's great to be out here. I love the state of Colorado. I'm a big winter sport enthusiast, so the opportunity to call another game out here in a place I've never been to is amazing. We had a great experience yesterday training. I think the stadium is great, and it's great to see the people of Colorado Springs kind of get behind what you guys have been about.
Yeah, well, appreciate you saying that, Matt, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Sounds great, Ryan. Thank you.
Yep, you bet. That's Matt Harmon. He is the radio voice of New York Red Bulls in town tonight for this U.S. Open Cup round of 32 matchup. And as you can hear from Matt, these two teams are kind of in the same boat right now. I mean, you look at the records, and the Switchbacks aren't off to even as good of a start necessarily as New York Red Bulls are. But the themes are very similar. And I had a conversation with Matt earlier today. I joined him on his platforms to preview tonight's match more from the switchback side of things. And it's just funny how both Matt and I have very much the same ideas about the teams that we call matches for. These two teams made it to the very end. Switchbacks obviously were able to win the USL championship. New York Red Bulls unable to get that one additional win that they needed to win MLS Cup. But still, these are two teams that had very long seasons, very short off seasons, some change mixed in there from a personnel standpoint. And it's not totally surprising that these two teams have failed to find their footing quite yet. But I actually think that that's what makes tonight's match even more fascinating. You know, and I'll put on either team, doesn't matter if it's New York or it's Switchbacks FC. Obviously, the Switchbacks have this additional motivation, certainly, to test themselves against players that are playing at the highest level of American soccer. There's always that dynamic, and you would always get an inspired performance, I think, by Colorado Springs in that situation. But beyond that, you have two teams that I think are really using tonight to get right, to break out of some of maybe the bad habits that they've gotten into early in the season, to find some consistency with the Switchbacks. If you've been following the team, you know what it is. It's a lot of good, and it's just a stretch of not so good. And that stretch right now is costing them everything. And it happened on Saturday again, right? They let in the goal against Phoenix, and I thought the rest of the way they completely outplayed Phoenix Rising. And then, yes, breakdown late. Abraham Romero has to get sent off with the red card, and that was all she wrote. But right now, the theme with Switchbacks FC is they're playing, I don't know, on any given night, it's 80 minutes, 83 minutes, 85 minutes, 87 minutes, where they're the better team. But it's those few minutes where they're not, that's costing them everything. So I think from the Switchbacks perspective tonight, it's just, regardless of what the result ends up being, just a 90-minute effort, 90 minutes of high-level execution. And then from there, the result will take care of itself. The Switchbacks have yet to have a full 90-minute performance. And easier said than done against New York Red Bulls. But that's what they're looking for. And then they'll have extra time after this match to look ahead to Vegas, which is going to be a big cup tilt on Saturday. But I think they're both in New York has got, I believe, LA Galaxy coming up. So these are two teams that are, I don't know that desperate is the right word, but very eager to find their footing. And they're using this match, even if some of the personnel is going to be different than what you would expect, the intent is still there. 90 minutes of switchback soccer, 90 minutes of Red Bull soccer, and get right and be able to use this as a jumping off point for the rest of the season, where both of these teams have incredibly high expectations. Kickoff at 7:30 tonight. Roland and I will be on the air 30 minutes prior right here on Extra Sports 1300, but I'll do you one better. How about you go? How about I help you go with tickets, a 4-pack of tickets to see Switchbacks FC host New York Red Bulls. We don't know when we're going to get this opportunity again. It's a unique event. Might want to be there for that, even with the weather. I think it's not anything we haven't braved before. Text Switchbacks and your name to 719-247-1313. The 13th texter to do that will win a 4-pack of tickets to tonight's match, and they're electronic. So after you win, I'll send them to you right away, and we can make sure that you're going to get in the gates tonight for Switchbacks FC and New York Red Bulls. We'll take a break, wrap up hour 2 of Drive Time Sports next. Congratulations to Luke. He has won a 4-pack of tickets to the U.S. Open Cup match tonight at Widener Field between Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC and New York Red Bulls. I'll have another opportunity here shortly because I want to make sure you got them and you're good to go. You can make the plans, get your buddies together, your family together, whatever it may be. So stay tuned. Hold on. Let's talk a little bit about something else, little nuggets, and then I have another opportunity for you here again to win some tickets. Yesterday, I said that the Nuggets should lean in a little bit to the Russell Westbrook revenge tour and embrace the chaos a little bit, because this is, and even in the Nuggets win, you do see how Oklahoma City can be a very difficult matchup for the Denver Nuggets, right? So it's not like you came away from that game, the way you came away from game 7 against the Clippers, right? The Nuggets stole that game. They stole it. They got some things they need to work on, certainly, and this is still going to be a long, difficult series for the Denver Nuggets. All I am willing to concede at this point is that the Nuggets got a win that they probably had to get if they're going to win this series. That being game 1, obviously. But last night, Russell Westbrook, I know he shot the 3, and it's just funny. We have to be fair to Russell Westbrook when we can be. Okay? He takes the 3. Don't love it. But why is Aaron Gordon getting the rebound and going into 3 dudes to try and lay that ball in? So we have to be fair that we don't love Russell Westbrook taking the 3, but I don't love Aaron Gordon taking on 3 Thunder players by himself when he could have dribbled it out, passed it out, reset, and gotten a better look. But coincidentally, both of them redeemed themselves at the end because it was Russell Westbrook who made the pass to Aaron Gordon in stride for him to be able to knock down that 3. I think one of the questions coming out of game 1, is it going to be Westbrook over Porter? Michael Porter last night was 1 of 8. 1 of 8 from the field. Did not make a 3-pointer. Russell Westbrook was 7 of 13. In addition to steals, rebounds, assists that we know Russell Westbrook tends to get, and Michael Porter is scoring and rebounding. And we know the situation with Michael Porter. Okay, I don't want this to turn into a solely ripping on Michael Porter going on, because that dude has been an absolute warrior. He can't take off his own jersey. Like, there was a moment there where during that game, I think it was early, where Grant Hill kind of got on Michael Porter a little bit, that he didn't really go up strong for a rebound. And it's like, dude, he only has one arm. It's going to look that way. So this is not an excuse to pile on Michael Porter, anything but. Right? I think I think he was key in game 7, and I think what he's doing to battle through is completely admirable. But now we're into round 2. Now it gets real, because you have Oklahoma City, and if you're fortunate enough to survive this series, you got Minnesota on the horizon or Golden State, and then you got the Eastern Conference champions. Right? Results matter. So this is not a Michael Porter can't be trusted. Michael Porter doesn't do this. Michael Porter doesn't do that. He is incredibly hurt. He is injured. And there's that old rule. My dad always told it to me, and I'm sure either your dad told it to you or maybe you tell it to your kids. I don't know if it jives with the way we view things in the modern day, but I took it to heart, and because I think it's good advice. Are you hurt or are you injured? And I think there's a reasonable expectation that if you were hurt, you will try to push through. Okay? And maybe that's toxic masculinity. I think it's good advice. And I think it goes beyond athletics, right? You're not feeling your best. Okay, but can you push through? You got people counting on you. The job needs to get done. So I've used that in many different things that I do in my life. So if you're hurt, there's a decent expectation that you play through it. If you are injured, then it's okay that you don't play. Right? And that's what my dad always told me. Like, if you're injured and you can't play, you can't play. And there's no shame in that. Injuries happen. But you have to make a determination on whether you're hurt or you're injured. Michael Porter right now looks injured. And I give him a ton of credit that he's battling through it. But, man, he looks injured. He doesn't look hurt. He doesn't look banged up. I think we are heading inevitably, at the end of NHL series, where we find out, who was it on Tampa that had a broken leg this year? It's like every year somebody's playing through a broken leg. Oh, I severed my spine, game 56. I didn't miss a game, but now I'm going to take care of it. We always hear these and we're like, whoa, that dude was playing with that. I think we're going to get to that with Michael Porter. Whenever this season ends, we're going to get a report that Michael Porter is severely injured. And what that will mean for him moving forward and all that, we can have that discussion when the time comes. But I am fully prepared for us to find out that Michael Porter is dealing with something incredibly serious when it comes to an injury. But last night, the results spoke for themselves. Michael Porter was just 1 of 8 from the field. Russell Westbrook was 7 of 13. Russell Westbrook, when he's on his game, when he's good, Russ, he does a lot of other things, right? Defensively, rebounding, passing, that Michael Porter doesn't do. Which has always been the case, whether Porter's healthy or not. That's just the two different types of players that they are. And with the idea that with how motivated Russell Westbrook seems to be right now, how locked in he seems to be, I don't know if you see Russell Westbrook in the starting lineup over Michael Porter tomorrow night, but keep an eye on those minutes. And I think Michael Porter could have, or David Adelman could have a quick hook with Michael Porter if he's not effective to begin game 2. Again, not on Michael Porter, but the Nuggets need all hands on deck here. They're not going to win 3 more games the way they did last night. They need Jamal Murray for 4 quarters. They need Aaron Gordon. I thought Peyton Watson was pretty good again in a limited role. Missed a layup, but had a couple of blocks. They're going to need everyone that they choose to play. So it's not that you can sit down Michael Porter and never go to him again. You need something from him to get past this series. But if he's ineffective like he was last night, how quickly do they go to Russell Westbrook? And how more prominent of a role will Westbrook play moving forward in this series than Michael Porter? I think we're getting to the point where we have to really have that conversation. Would you start Russell Westbrook over Michael Porter? Because how then does that, you also have to think about how much time Russell Westbrook plays. How does that impact Jamal Murray? With that two-man game. So I think David Adelman has some decisions certainly to be made going into tomorrow night. But, hey, you'd much rather make these decisions and think about this stuff after a win than after a loss. Most of the adjustments, I think, have to come from the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have to figure out some things on Jokic. They have to be able to put this team away if they're up. And they got to weigh the benefit, the risk reward with this analytics thing. Now, I had somebody call in earlier, thought I was trying to help out Oklahoma City. No, I'm just here to give my opinion. And my opinion is Chet Holmgren bonding up Nikola Jokic is an awful idea. But I heard Mark Dagno after the game, they used a lot of last night's game to kind of, and this is such an analytics answer that he gave, like, my goodness, we got a lot of data. I think he used the word data. He may have even said data points. Like, they tried some different things, right? And it's the same when you're going against a player like Nikola Jokic, and that's specifically, I think, who he's talking about more than anything else. Ty Lue had to make adjustments. Ty Lue had to change things up. Every coach that goes against Jokic comes out with the plan. Inevitably, it's like, that doesn't work. We got to adjust it. That happens in every series. Look, as sitting I'm not sitting, I'm standing. But from where I'm standing, sure. If you told me Oklahoma City's not going to make any adjustments and the Nuggets are going to, super. That's great news. I don't want them to make adjustments. I'm just saying they're definitely going to. And watching the game last night, I certainly have some theories. But there are adjustments that the Nuggets can make as well. And we'll see how different game 2 is tomorrow night. 719-247-1313. We got the 3 stories that are driving the show coming up next. But in the meantime, one more chance for you to win tickets to see Switchbacks FC take on New York Red Bulls tonight at Widener Field. It's a 7:30 kickoff, if you are wondering. If you are the 13th texter to text Switchbacks in your name to 719-247-1313, you'll get a 4-pack to tonight's match. And maybe I'll see you out there. 3 stories that are driving the show next. Hello there. Welcome in Drive Time Sports on this Tuesday. Ryan Kaufman with you. Appreciate your patronage, whether you're listening to the show on air, online, or through the Extra Sports 1300 app, or if you are watching the show while you are listening on our social media platforms at XTRA Sports 1300. And that's available on X, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. 719-247-1313 is the number if you'd like to get your thoughts in on this Tuesday, perhaps about these things that I am talking about, which we call what's driving the show. All right, we start with Mr. Nugget coming through again.
This would be a huge miss. Second free throw, Holmgren. Missed it again. Rebound down to Christian Brown. You got to hurry. 7 seconds. Front court over to Westbrook. Left side, Gordon for the win. Yeah! 2.8 seconds left coming back the other way. Williams from half court. Baked it no good at the horn. And the Denver Nuggets shock the Oklahoma City Thunder in game number 1.
Cause on the call for Altitude Sports Radio as heard right here on Extra Sports 1300. Got to tell you, wasn't looking great for the Denver Nuggets throughout most of that game. But yet, they kept absorbing these body blows from Oklahoma City, and they wouldn't go away. Oklahoma City was never able to really put the Nuggets away. And all they were looking for, being the Denver Nuggets, was an opportunity to take that game from Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City offered it up with their questionable decision-making and clock management at the end of the game. But even with that, you can't take anything away from the shot that Aaron Gordon made. And Ramona Shelburne of ESPN had a piece today about Aaron Gordon. You know, there's a thought certainly that once you get to the NBA, once you get to a certain age, you really can't add to your game. Not in a real way. Like if you're a good 3-point or a bad 3-point shooter, you're going to stay a bad 3-point shooter for the most part. I think one notable exception is LeBron James. Remember how poor of a 3-point shooter he was. But here's Aaron Gordon at this stage of his career, improving his 3-point shooting by 10%. He's shooting 43.6% from 3-point range this season. So the shot that he hit, as somewhat improbable as it was, as any, close to buzzer beater is. I mean, the guy has a even higher percentage dunking the basketball, and it's still improbable that he was able to get that dunk against the Clippers. But this last night is the result of Aaron Gordon working on his game, continuing to work on his game. And that is to be commended. This is one guy, as much as we talk about how the Denver Nuggets as a whole are not what they were a couple of years ago in terms of talent, here's one guy that is actually elevating his play, actually being better than he was previously. And you love to see a guy like that get rewarded in that moment. And then you go beyond it to who Aaron Gordon is as a person, what he has been through recently. He brought his nephews to the post-game press conference. Like, as David Adelman said, that dude is the soul of the team. And if we're going to have a conversation a few weeks to a couple of months from now about who the Nuggets can be willing to sacrifice in order to improve their team to get back to a championship level if they don't make it there this year, I'm telling you, Aaron Gordon's off the table. Probably already was, if we're being fair about it. That guy just means so much to this franchise. And we've talked about it before. It's not like this is lost on us, but sometimes in the desperation that the Nuggets have went through, you think all options are open, right? Hey, anybody not named Nikola Jokic. And it's like, no, Aaron Gordon's on that list. You can't have a postseason like this guy has had and be a hero like this, and that's the guy you end up parting with. I just don't see it. But just a great postseason so far for Aaron Gordon. He's been terrific, and he's played the hero twice in games that the Denver Nuggets have absolutely needed. They absolutely needed the game where he dunked it at the buzzer, and they needed last night if they're going to have a chance to win this series. I really don't think that the Denver Nuggets would be able to beat the Thunder in this series had they lost game one. Aaron Gordon to the rescue again. Awesome moment last night. But, or I should say, in addition to, here's the reason why Aaron Gordon had the chance to win the game late.
Jokic guarded by Hartenstein. 10 on the shot clock. Joker for three. Yes! Denver's made it a 1-point game, 115 to 114.
Altitude again on the call. Nikola Jokic last night was an absolute beast. 42 points, 22 rebounds, 6 assists, and in many ways you could look at that shot on close to equal footing as the game winner. That was the biggest shot of the game until the buzzer beater. That put Oklahoma City in this situation where they didn't have complete control of the game, right? They could add 2, but it'd still be a one-possession game. Making it a one-possession game, 1-point game at the time, but a one-possession game was massive. And then Oklahoma City starts to foul Denver because analytics tells them to, and they left the window open because Chet Holmgren bricked a couple of free throws and it led to Aaron Gordon hitting the game winner. But Nikola Jokic was, a bigger Nikola Jokic playoff performance, I can't recall. With what was on the line, the circumstances 48 hours ago, winning a game 7, turn around, play the best team in the Western Conference in their building, and for Nikola in a game where he didn't get everybody pulling in the same direction for most of that game. And Oklahoma City was swarming defensively, knocking down threes, delivering these body blows, and the guy that inevitably came right back at them was Nikola Jokic. And you saw the passion that he was showing on the sideline during timeouts, the ownership that he has taken of this. And it started from when Michael Malone was fired. We noticed the change, and it's just ratcheted up since. Like, I don't know if this is like some kind of legacy thing, if this is some... I think just what it is he knows that more than ever, which is kind of a scary thought considering how much the Denver Nuggets have needed this guy. But I think he realizes that they need him more than ever. In this series, under these circumstances, after Michael Malone was fired, they need Nikola Jokic more than ever. And it's not just on the court, it's on the sideline, in the timeouts, it's behind the scenes, in the locker room. It's the leadership that he brings, the emotion that he's playing with. I mean, this is a different Nikola Jokic. And last night, he was at times unstoppable. And he, on an individual level, completely outplayed the guy that is going to unseat him as the reigning MVP of the league. Shea was really good. Don't get me wrong. Nikola Jokic was that much better. And that's certainly a storyline in this series, right? Jokic versus SGA. Round 1 went to Jokic, and round 1 went to the Denver Nuggets. Game 2 tomorrow night in Oklahoma City. Shifting gears for story number 3.
Today we made a difficult decision. We made we're gonna move on. A good hockey man and a good person and a good coach in Ray Bennett. So just wanted to start off with that. And
that is Avalanche general manager Chris McFarland making not quite the announcement that many expected him to make earlier today when he and Joe Sakic met with the media after the Avalanche collapsed in Game 7 to get bounced from the playoffs. That whole time I was listening, and it was the first thing that he said. I thought he was going to fire Jared Bednar. I thought that's what he was gearing up for. He fires Ray Bennett instead. Why? Because Ray Bennett's one of his main jobs is the power play. 14% in this series. Not nearly good enough. But we see this kind of a move all the time in the NFL. And around these parts, I know it's been great with Sean Payton, but got a lot of other coaches before him in Denver where you know this cycle, right? First, you fire the coordinator. Ray Bennett is a coordinator. And you do that to try and spark something. You do that to try and get some different ideas in there, but you do it to kind of protect the head coach, right? I think the Avalanche understood that the way they lost, how they lost was unacceptable. And it's the type of performance that costs people jobs or costs a person a job in this case. But teams do this all the time. They take the OC, they take the defensive coordinator, they take the special teams coordinator, and they feed them to the wolves, so to speak. Throw them under the bus, whatever metaphor you want to use. And usually there's some justification behind it, right? The power play was terrible. But this is equally about protecting Jared Bednar. No, we're not firing Jared Bednar, but we're doing this. We're addressing it. We understand how embarrassing this was. Ray Bennett becomes the fall guy. But now what happens moving forward, just like you've seen with Vic Fangio and Nathaniel Hackett and Vance Joseph, you can only do that once. Right? You can't fire the special teams coordinator, then fire the defensive coordinator, and fire the offensive. There are not that many levels. You fire a coordinator, the one who's in charge of your weakest aspect of your team, and then all of the pressure then falls on the head coach to make it work. There is no coach in the National Hockey League that is going to be going into next season on a hotter seat than Jared Bednar. And I would imagine something to that effect has been discussed with him. Like, hey, yeah, we're doing this, but now it's on you. 0-4 in Game 7s. One playoff series win since the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup. Jared Bednar is on notice. He is on the hot seat. And if next year goes sideways at any point, early part of the season, end of the season, in the playoffs, trust me, Jared Bednar will be let go as the head coach of the Colorado Avalanche. They will not take another assistant and offer him up as a sacrifice. The next job that they will have an opening for with the Colorado Avalanche, if next year doesn't live up to expectation, is head coach. But today, they protect him and say, we're getting somebody to impact our special teams, impact our power play. And we hope that that works. And look, one other part of this before I break, it's not that Joe Sakic and Chris McFarland don't believe in Jared Bednar, right? Like two things can be true. It can be that they believe in him and they want to give him a chance. And Joe Sakic today talked about the turnover on the roster. I think that extends to Jared Bednar a little bit, trying to throw all this together on the fly. I do think that they have belief still in Jared Bednar. They don't want to fire him. But he can also be on thin ice. He can also be on the hot seat. Because one thing that became abundantly clear listening to both Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic, they're just as surprised as you are at the way this series went. They're just as surprised as you are. They're just as disappointed as you are. I believe them. I take them at their word when they say things like that. But one other thing that I got from that press conference earlier today, they think the roster's right. They do. They do not think that they are a big piece away. Depth pieces, perhaps. We'll have to see who's coming, who's going. But the core of this team, the two stars with McKinnon and McCarr, the next tier of player, which is Devon Taves, Valerian Nichushkin, Arturi Lehkonen, maybe Brock Nelson's in that. The new players like Natchez and Drury and Brock Nelson, they think they got the roster to win it all. They're going to try and retain them, right? They got to do that. But if they get these guys back, they believe they'll win. So it is not them second guessing the moves that they made. They doubled down on the Mikko Rantanen trade. So another reason why Jared Bednar's seat next year is piping hot. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. Drive Time Sports coming up tonight, 7 o'clock. If you'd like to hear Roland and I set up tonight's matchup in the U.S. Open Cup round of 32, but kickoff between Switchbacks FC and New York Red Bulls is at 7:30 right here on extrasports1300.com. Extra Sports 1300 on your radio dial and the app as well. One other aspect of, and this is beside the point, it had no impact whatsoever on who won and who lost the game, but it was an interesting little tidbit. Did you happen to notice what Oklahoma City fans were chanting at Nikola Jokic? Not MVP. If you were not aware of this, that makes two of you because Nikola Jokic wasn't either. Shouts to Vinny Benedetto of the Gazette for asking the question. Oklahoma, like, sometimes I get it. You're in your car, you're doing a million other things, and, you're not completely locked into what I am saying, which is fine. It's totally fine. I understand. I just appreciate the fact that you have me on at all, even if it's in the background. Let me reiterate, just to drive the point home. Oklahoma City Thunder fans of the team that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plays for, were chanting free throw merchant at Nikola Jokic. That's rich. That's rich. That is actually, it's actually not just funny, it's hysterical. That's hysterical to me. Find a fan, and I know Thunder fans are diehard. They're a good group of people down there. But the lack of self-awareness was shocking last night. Shocking. It's almost like if this is going to take a dark turn. I don't mean it, but this is something that popped in my head. They say that the partner in the relationship that is actually the one doing the cheating is the one accusing the other one of cheating all the time, like the guilty conscience type thing. Like, that's what I feel like this is with Oklahoma City Thunder fans. You have Shai on your team, and you're saying Nikola Jokic is a free throw merchant. Pot, kettle, the whole nine. Because I am the arbiter of all these things. I am here to tell you, without equivocation and without any subjectivity, they both are. They both are. Like, can we just call it what it is? Like, there are degrees, there are levels to this. Some are worse than others. But if Webster's dictionary did free throw merchant, because who knows, over the last few years, they've added all these other slang terms, so why not? If they ever put free throw merchant in the dictionary, whatever definition would follow that would apply to Shai, and it would apply to Nikola Jokic. Can we just be honest about that? I'll concede Shai's worse. Shai is worse. Absolutely, he's worse. There's no doubt about that. But they're both kind of free throw merchants. They're both trying to get free throws. Nikola Jokic last night was trying very hard. Now, and again, this is not Nikola Jokic every night. He doesn't do it as much as Shea. Come on. He does try to bait guys into contact so he can go to the free throw line. He does complain about calls or not just because you're not going to change the referee's mind. When you see players argue with officials, it's not for that call, like maybe they're just venting a little bit, but what it is for the next one. That's what Nikola Jokic is doing. He's getting on them about this call that he thinks they missed so that the next time something similar happens, and he'll ensure that it will, the referee makes the call. Isn't that being a free throw merchant, kind of? To me, it's just about what extent you will go to, what lengths you will go to in order to do it. How much is that at the core of your game? And when it comes to putting contact to go to the free throw line, the numbers will tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is more core to who Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is as a player than it is Nikola Jokic. It is more core to a player like James Harden than it is Nikola Jokic. It is more core to the game of a Joel Embiid than a Nikola Jokic. But it's part of it. It's part of what Nikola Jokic does. And he was trying really hard last night. Maybe you don't agree with me. Maybe you don't think that at any point you can label Nikola Jokic a free throw merchant. Last night you can. Last night you can. You have to agree with me. But it was a lot of it was out of necessity. I think there were a lot of calls that Nikola Jokic should have gotten that he didn't, and that led him, I think, to go in even more into trying to get the call. I think that's what happened last time, because Oklahoma City, to no one's surprise, was kind of allowed to beat on him a little bit, which happens a lot. But if you make a call early, then I don't think Nikola Jokic feels the need to bait as much and to become as much of a free throw merchant. But if he doesn't get the calls early, he turns into that. And he did last time. But what I am saying, and I never got involved in the discourse with Shea. I'm pro Jokic winning the MVP. I'm not anti-Shea. I think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is a phenomenal player that in any other year where Nikola Jokic is not around, he would win and would be deserving. And he has a case now, just not the more compelling case, in my opinion. A phenomenal player. I don't tear him down because he tries to get to the free throw line. I take it on a case-by-case basis. I look at this foul call and I say, that's just good basketball. And then I look at this other play and I say that he's being a free throw merchant. Doesn't mean he's not a terrific basketball player. But overall, we're not doing it. Okay? We're not going to do this. I brought it up now because it's pertinent, it's topical. It was because of what Oklahoma City's fans were chanting last night. Can we not make it about this? Can we just make a pact, you and I? We can't affect the entire world here. But can we not make this series about who is being a free throw merchant and who's not? Can that not become one of the main talking points of this series? Can it just not? Like, I feel like there's a lot of other stuff going on. And there was a lot of stuff going on last night. That's why I'm getting to this conversation with a half an hour left in the show, because it didn't impact the game last night. It didn't cause one team to win and one team to lose. I just found it humorous, as Nikola Jokic did, that kind of chanting would come from Oklahoma City fans. And there's a little bit of a lack of self-awareness. It's almost like when the LA Clippers fans were chanting MVP for Kawhi Leonard in the last series. Like, I know you love him, okay, but the dude played less than a half of a season, and you're just doing it because Nikola Jokic is playing in that game. In no universe was Kawhi Leonard deserving of like single MVP vote this year. So don't do that. Don't plan MVP because you're just doing it because of Jokic on the floor. And it's the same thing here. You're chanting it to Nikola Jokic, knowing full well that if there's any player on the court that exemplifies what it is to be a free throw merchant, it is the guy that plays for Oklahoma City. But it was kind of funny. I think Oklahoma City fans are awesome. I really do. All right, there are some fan bases that are absolutely terrible. The Thunder are not one of them. Small markets, flyover country, got to stick together. But come on, you know what you did last night. Like, let's just not make this. Oh, and it just bothers me both ways. The number of tweets last night about Jokic not getting any calls, as if you're going to impact the referees. Like at halftime, the referee's scrolling through his X and like, man, look at all these fans that are saying we're not calling enough fouls. Maybe we should call enough fouls. We should call more. Can we not make the foul shooting and who's getting called and who's not? If it happens at a key moment of the game that decides the game, then okay. But can we not make this discourse from quarter one to quarter four? Can we talk about other things? There are some people that make this their identity when they're discussing basketball. Who's getting calls and who's not? It's exhausting. And I hate it. I hate keeping tabs like this. Well, LeBron got a few more calls, but, Jokic got a guy. I don't want to do it. There are plenty of other things going on in this series. We don't need to have a free throw merchant number of free throws debate. The free throws were pretty even last night. Pretty even. No big foul discrepancy. This doesn't need to be a talking point. 719-24-7, 13-13. Do you agree? Can we do this? Can we make this pact right now? Because I don't want to talk about free throws and foul calls for 2 weeks. I really don't. 719-24-7, 13-13. Just saw a tweet out of Oklahoma City. Sam Presti has won Executive of the Year in the NBA, and probably deservedly so. And look, I think we've kind of moved away from how important of an addition Isaiah Hartenstein was for that team. He's going to play a big role. Nikola Jokic with Hartenstein as his primary defender, was one of 6. So I expect to have him more on Jokic and have Chet Holmgren lurking from the weak side more as this series goes on. But certainly well-deserved. I mean, what, we're going to give it to Calvin Booth? So fine, but that's not really why I bring this up. I bring this up because Mark Daigneault was complimenting him and talking about how good of a GM he was, and then he says, so now let's talk about fouling up 3. So yeah, that is the conversation. And look, he could be lighthearted about this. This is the armor that analytics people wrap themselves in. They feel like over time they're going to be proven right. Because that's what analytics are. Now, analytics is more, any piece of information can be an analytic, but analytics, how we think of it, how you play and everything like that, how it manifests itself where they automatically foul up 3. That kind of analytics, it works over time. It's been proven. That's how, that's how Billy Beane did it. That's how the Rays continue to do it year after year. That's how, some of Daryl Morey's teams, when they are relatively healthy, have a lot of success. When he was in Houston, they went to Western Conference Finals. Analytics works, or else nobody would do it. Right? But it's been a perpetual debate, and it may be till the end of time. Is there a time to put analytics away? Is there a time to say, yes, I know what the numbers are telling me. I know what the analytics are telling me, but I'm saying in this moment, it's not the right call. I don't know if when you do that, the whole idea of being an analytical coach comes crashing down and your whole reality shatters and you ruin the entire model. I don't know. But last night, Mark Daigneault should have dropped what the analytics say and say, Nikola Jokic is standing there on the bench. We have the chance to not let him back in the game. And then what would the conversation be? It's more fun to do this after the Nuggets won than if the Nuggets lost. But what would be the conversation today if in that particular case, they don't foul? Shea makes the dunk and they let the Nuggets play it out. And they lose. David Adelman is getting killed today. How could you possibly leave your best player? I don't care if he has 5 fouls. How could you leave him on the bench at the most important juncture of the game? So David Adelman owes Mark Daigneault, I guess, is what I'm getting at. But I just always feel like there is a time. I overall believe in analytics. I see that they somewhat level the playing field for teams that just don't have, especially in baseball, the teams that just don't have the payroll or the talent of some other teams. Like, I understand it. I'm not anti-analytics, but I have just always been somebody that feels like there's a time and a place where you say, I get what these are telling me, and I'm going to go right back to it. I promise. But in this moment, right now, some variable has been introduced that I cannot ignore. And that variable was Nikola Jokic being on the bench because David Adelman didn't want him to foul out. And that was the moment where OKC should have abandoned the analytics. I get heat of the moment and all that kind of stuff, but that was a mistake. And that was the opening that the Denver Nuggets needed. They got Jokic back in the game, and they ended up winning the basketball game. And I will much about tomorrow night I haven't decided on yet. But I'll tell you one thing, that exact situation will never happen again to Mark Daigneault. Will never happen again. I promise you, it never happen again. And that's why I think he laughs it off. Plus, he feels like in the long term, the way they do it is the right way to go about it. Steve texts in, what a finish. Chaos dished it to Gordon. And I talked about this. I think the minutes for Porter and Westbrook, you're going to continue to see more time for Westbrook and less time for Michael Porter. And look, there was chaos, right? Because a possession earlier, Russell Westbrook took a three that even the altitude crew went viral for because they went, no. And even Aaron Gordon on that play, he went right back up against 3 Thunder players when he could have dribbled it out and gotten a better look. We got bad and good Russell Westbrook in the crunch time of that game, just like game 1 against the Clippers. Just like so many other games. It's both. And I just think that the Nuggets are at the point, given the opponent and how much better they're going to have to be moving forward in this series than even they were in game 1, but certainly than they were against the Clippers. I think you embrace it. I think you lean into it. You take the good with the bad more so now moving forward than before. It doesn't mean that Russell Westbrook's there's a 0% chance he's going to cost this team a game. He might, but it worked out in the Nuggets' favor last night. Missed the 3, came back, made the dish to Aaron Gordon. And what a moment. And 2, I know not everyone is both a Nuggets and an Avs fan. But if you are both, boy, was that the elixir that you needed after game 7 with the Avs, wasn't it? Even a Nuggets win, I don't want to say nondescript because any win against Oklahoma City in game 1 would have been big. But the excitement of it, that moment of Gordon hitting that shot, anything else, even if the Nuggets would have won, you'd still been this is awesome. I wish that the Avalanche were still in the playoffs. I don't know about you. I felt in that moment the Avs didn't exist. And I've been thinking about the Avalanche a lot over the last couple of days. In that moment, they didn't exist. It was just Aaron Gordon. I mean, I can't think of a more perfect way to come back as a fan of both the Avs and the Nuggets than to have that finish last night in that game. But some things to tighten up, some things to improve. They're going to need Jamal Murray for 4 quarters. Got to figure it out. Whatever they did to him, I think it's Lou Dort. And he does that to a lot of people. But got to figure it out. But the Nuggets get out on the front foot. They are now not in full control of the series, but they're in control of the series, right? Even if they lose tomorrow night, not that I want this to get back to the Nuggets because they should try with every fiber of their being to take a 2-0 lead back to Denver. But even if they are to lose tomorrow night, still 1-1, you have a chance in game 3 on your home floor to take back the lead, and you can make Oklahoma City chase you this entire series. And that was a massive win. And Alexa is, or which one is she? Siri. What did I say that sounded like Siri? I didn't say anything that sounded like Siri. Siri, shut up. I'm just not nice to her. Sorry. One other note here before I go. I thought that the first round of the NBA playoffs would be a little bit crazy in terms of upsets. And we got some, right? Golden State beat Houston. Most people had that. I thought Minnesota was going to beat the Lakers. And before you think that I'm patting myself on the back, just know that I never do that. I always find a way to put myself down, so I will by saying I picked the Clippers to beat the Denver Nuggets. But I thought there would be quite a few upsets in round one, and there were a few. I actually did not expect there to be a lot in this round. And looky here. Indiana beats Cleveland game one. Knicks beat the Celtics game one. Nuggets beat the Oklahoma City Thunder game one. Could this round be just as nuts as the last round? Maybe these NBA playoffs aren't going to be as chalky moving forward as perhaps some people think. And tonight, Cleveland's without 3 players, 3 key players. Pacers might go up 2-0. That'd be nuts. Be nuts for the Nuggets to go up 2-0. Whether they do or whether they don't, you have to agree that the idea that they would take a 2-0 series lead back to Denver with them would be crazy. But they have that chance tomorrow night. You can hear the game here on Extra Sports 1300. In the meantime, tonight, Switchbacks, New York Red Bulls. Love for you to join us. 7 o'clock pregame, 7:30 kickoff from Widener Field. Roland Vargas and I will be on the call for that one. Speaking of, my heartfelt thanks to Matt Harmon, voice of New York Red Bulls, for joining me earlier on in the show and kind of setting the scene in terms of tonight's opponent. Obviously, more so thanks to you for listening and to you for interacting. I will talk to some of you at 7. If I don't, we'll convene tomorrow. Look forward to game 2, Nuggets and Thunder. Have a good night.